got a director who's not focusing today. Like, guys, I'm about to reach the roof. Hi. Oh, what did the Rundu people do to you guys? You're not even listening. Can we have a bit of more volume in my ear with you, Mwaka? And I think, is the box on in the studio? On where? Good afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to our Thursday edition here at the Government Information Center. My name is Desire Kahia, and I am your host for this afternoon. Today we're having a civic education session on diabetes. Yes, it is one of those chronic illnesses that has affected many people, and somehow we don't really have a lot of information circulating about diabetes. And most cases, people get to learn about the different details or the many details once they themselves become diagnosed or when they have to deal with a family member that gets diagnosed with this illness. In the studio, I have two experts, I call them experts, that will be helping us to dissect diabetes and hopefully get to learn more information that will help us in the future with regards to this illness. I have Dr. Kyoko Galyuka. He is a specialist from the Ministry of Health and Social Services. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Few viewers.
I also have Ms. Helene Samuel. She is a diabetes nurse educator, also from the Ministry of Health and Social Services. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, viewers as well.
Let us dive into this one, and we would like to start by definition, Dr. Galuka. What is diabetes, and what are the main causes of diabetes?
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be with you here. Diabetes, we normally refer it as diabetes, but the main name is diabetes mellitus because we have other forms of diabetes. So diabetes mellitus is when an individual's blood sugar is above what is normal. So there are reasons, or sometimes there are causes which make this sugar to be above what is, or what would refer as normal. And to want to understand that is we need to know how does our body control the blood sugar. Blood sugar in the body is controlled by an hormone, that is a chemical which is produced by our pancreas called insulin. So in some individuals, you find that they are not able to produce that insulin, and therefore they cannot control their blood sugar. Some other individuals, you find that they are producing insulin, but not adequate enough to control their sugars. And there are also another third group of individuals who produce enough insulin, but the insulin is resistant. There is resistance of the action of the insulin in the body, and therefore their sugars remains very high. And that brings us to the question of, are all diabetes mellitus the same? And the answer is no. We have different types of diabetes mellitus. So there is the first category I talked about where they are not producing any insulin. We see these individuals, most of them tend to be young children, adolescents, and young adults. These people do not produce any insulin in their body, and we refer to them as type 1 diabetes mellitus patients. Then we have a second category of individuals. They do produce insulin. Some of them may not be adequate, and others are producing enough, but because of resistance, they are not able to control their blood sugars. And these, what we refer as type 2 diabetes mellitus. They account to about 80% of all diabetic patients. We have also other two forms of diabetes, like the third one is diabetes associated with pregnancy. So you find someone a lady was very normal, and then she gets pregnant, and suddenly she's told, you have diabetes. And we have the fourth category of diabetes, which is associated with other diseases or sometimes the use of medications. So as I've said, since the definition of diabetes mellitus is someone has to have high sugars in his blood, then it means that the only time you can have a diagnosis of diabetes mellitus is through a blood test, which will demonstrate that your blood sugar is way above what is expected to be normal. And the third aspect is that diabetes mellitus is one of the non-communicable diseases. What do I mean? I mean, you cannot get diabetes by associating or living with an individual. So so that is the reason why we normally call it non-communicable disease. You can't get it by associating or living with someone in the same house.
Okay, yes. Okay. Now, doctor, you have given us the types where you spoke about type 1, type 2, and there was a third one. Now, Ms. Samuel, I would like to then just gain clarity. What doctor just explained now, is that the same thing as stages of diabetes, or is that something different? And if it is different, what are the various stages of diabetes?
Thank you for the question. It's a very important question, because you also find people in the communities when they talk about diabetes mellitus, and they say, no, I'm suffering from the worst one, whatever. But as Dr. alluded earlier, we don't call it in stages, is in types, as Dr. said, just as Dr. explained, just maybe to make it a clarity, just to clarify on the type 1, as Dr. said, these type 1 that we mostly found in young children and also young adults. It's when the body itself, it's an autoimmune system problem where the body actually attacks the beta cells that are producing this insulin. So the body recognizes it as foreign, and then it attacks now these cells, meaning that there is a totally damaged. There is no cells to produce the insulin at all. And that's why most of them, or say 100% of our patients on type 1, they end up with injection because there's nothing at all. And then type 2, as also doctor said, there is a bit of insulin, but it's not sufficient. It's not enough really to bring down the glucose levels, from the bloodstream. And they also treated also with a medication, with tablets, and also they also end up sometimes with the injection as well. Okay. And then what also doctor said is the third one, which is now, we call it gestational diabetes mellitus, is when somebody was now diagnosed while she's pregnant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now with that one, the gestational one, is it something that is temporary and the body after birth reverts back to its normal system, or is it something that stays with this mother?
Yeah, I can answer on that one. Yes, they are, most of the time it's only because they are pregnant, and because also they know when you are pregnant, the hormones also increases. Yeah, so they are only, most of the time they are treated until 6 weeks after pregnancy, and then they are reviewed again. Okay. And some of them at times they revert back to the normal. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What health problems are related to diabetes? And this is either directly or indirectly. Doctor?
Untreated diabetes mellitus is associated with quite a number of problems. There is what affects the body itself. Maybe I'll start with that. So when the blood sugar has been very high and controlled for a long period of time, then it affects the blood vessels, and it also affects the nerves. So we find that these individuals tend to have the organs which will be affected will be the brain, you have the eyes, the heart, the kidneys, and most of the times we see on the legs. So these are the things we see patients who will get as what we call a stroke. They may lose their eyesight. They may get heart attacks. Their kidneys stop working, and then they end up with what we normally call kidney failure. And their limbs become, they are not able to supply blood to their limbs, and therefore sometimes they may need to get amputations. So those are what happens in the body. But outside the body, these individuals also go through a lot of psychological trauma. You have been told you are diabetic. What's going to happen to me? Am I going to die now? So these people have a lot of psychological issues. They are emotionally disturbed. Diabetes does affect relationships. We know that as the diabetes progresses, even reproduction is an issue. And for married couple, you may find that there is no satisfaction in the marriage, and this can even lead to marriage breakups. So these are some of the things we see. Of course, it has a lot of effect financially, because for patients who are diabetic, they need to go to hospital regularly. They need to have tests. They need sometimes to buy medications. They need to buy materials for testing, and all these cost money. So it drains them financially. So it also goes ahead even at workplace. You are admitted in hospital, you are not able to go to work. The HR is saying you have been out of work for this number of days, so we cannot continue working with you. Even for the young individuals, they are admitted in hospital, they are not able to go to school, so it affects their school performance. So these are some of the other things which comes along with diabetes, other than the normal complications which we normally see on the body.
Okay. Ms. Samuel, now we come back to, a lot of times you find people who have diabetes and are not aware that they have diabetes. And this is where the question then arises. What are the known symptoms that can be indicative of diabetes, and who is at risk of developing diabetes?
Okay, first of all, let us start with who are at risk of getting diabetes mellitus. And also just to share information that 54% of the population of the people, they are undiagnosed. Yeah, they are not aware that they have a problem. People that are at high risk, especially if we have family members or parents that have diabetes, they are also highly likely to get the diabetes. And then we also have people that are pregnant as well. They are also at high risk, and people with what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome, they can also get the diabetes. And then people with cardiovascular diseases, people with obesity and overweight, and they don't exercise, they are also at risk. And then we also have the other, as Dr. Elia said, that there's medication that can also cause that. We also find people that are actually taking ARVs, they are also at risk of having insulin resistance sometimes. Yeah, but I've also as I'm in the practice, I also came to know that we have a generational type of diabetes where they goes according to generations. The granny had diabetes, and then the mother, and then the child, and then the grandchild. So I actually had a case like that. Yeah, and then when we come to the signs and symptoms of diabetes mellitus, classically we have 3 of them, where people are producing a lot of urine. They are going often to the toilet. Like at night, they can go maybe 3 to 4 times waking up to go to the loo. And then we also have thirstiness. We know even in Namibia, we are really suffering from the heat. But when we are thirsty, you are thirsty. And these people drink a lot of water, like liters of water, not normal cup of water, but they are constantly drinking liters of water. And then also some dizziness, they are also fatigue, they are just tired. You just wake up, you are tired. And also constant eating, they are always hungry. They want to eat, even if they eat an hour ago, so they still feel that they are hungry. And what we also picked up is the blurred vision. Some of them, they just complain of blurred vision, and then headaches as well. And only when they go for testing, then they are told that maybe their sugar levels are higher. And as I said, most of the people, they are really not, they are undiagnosed. And when people are also going to the toilet, sometimes for the urine to be when they go to the hospital, people test the urine. But for the glucose to pass then through the urine, they should be maybe around about 15 millimole per liter or so. That's why most of the time they really won't go to the hospital for that. But yeah, those are the signs and symptoms. And also, people that have also high cholesterol levels in their bloodstream, they are also at high risk also of developing diabetes. And then what we call the pre-diabetes. Yeah, because currently now our percentage in Namibia, we are having 20% of our population who have pre-diabetes. And if we don't do anything now for those people, they will end up then with diabetes mellitus after a year or 2.
Okay, okay. This is a conversation, as I always say, and you as our viewer, you are very much welcome to join the conversation here in the studio, and you can do so by posing your question or placing your comment on our social media platforms through which we are streaming this show. On Facebook, you can find us at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That's Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. We are also on YouTube. We are live streaming from that platform as well. And our handle there is MICT Namibia. MICT Namibia. While we wait for you to join this conversation, I'd like to then just ask, Ms. Samuel, you mentioned pre-diabetes. I would like to believe that this is similar to what is referred to sometimes as borderline diabetic. Now the question is the progression to the next stage of diabetes inevitable if somebody is to be diagnosed with pre-diabetes? Or are there steps that can be taken to reverse that? Maybe doctor can also assist us with that one.
Yes, we have normally, at this particular time, we can talk about stages. So we have a normal individual And then we have that stage of pre-diabetes, and then we have the stage of diabetes. The pre-diabetes stage usually takes about, in average, 5 to 7 years, depending on where you live. And this is the stage when we can be able to do something, and we can be able to reverse. During this particular time of pre-diabetes, most of these individuals do not have any symptoms. What my colleague has said, they do not have any symptoms. But if you do their blood sugar tests, then you find that they are higher up above what is normal. So these are individuals now whom we can do something. So we know that for anybody who is a normal individual who is overweight, above the normal weight for their height, and people who are pre-diabetes, we need to engage in what we normally call lifestyle modification. And the lifestyle modification takes a number of things. One is healthy eating. You need to eat foods which are plenty with vegetables and fruits, low in carbohydrates, at least a bit of some healthy proteins. We need to have regular exercise. And when we talk about regular exercise, we are talking about exercise which gives you about 150 minutes in a week. And here we are recommending what we normally call moderate exercise. These are things like aerobics, things like cycling, things like jogging. This is what we recommend. We are not talking about going to the gym and lifting weights. No, not that. And we are not talking about you just strolling around, or what we do in the office, moving from one office to the other. That is not exercise. Okay. So that's the kind of exercise. Then we are talking about things like alcohol. Either you stop or you take it in moderation. We need to stop smoking. We need to reduce the amount of salt in our diet. And then the last thing is weight loss. And we know that 10% weight loss can actually reverse your progression to diabetes by up to 58%.
Wow. Okay.
So if you can lose someone who is overweight and he's pre-diabetic, or someone who is just overweight, even if he's normal, and you reduce 10% of your body weight, then you reverse the chances of going to being an overt diabetic by 58%. So that is the stage of the pre-diabetes, and those are the measures we can be able to take.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Doctor, earlier on you alluded to the perception that people have that tend to also create a psychological effect when somebody gets diagnosed with diabetes. Like, a lot of people see it as a death sentence, to be very honest. They go through that shock. Now, just now you also spoke about a few changes that can be made with regards to reversing from the stage of pre-diabetes to a normal, sugar level balanced, and avoid the progression. Now, my question is, how long can one live with diabetes, and can similar steps then be adopted by somebody who has been diagnosed with diabetes to create that longevity? Ms. Samuel, maybe you can assist me as well.
Yeah, I can also, really we cannot say how long a person will live. I like to give practical examples. As I said earlier, in my practical experience, I had somebody that was, she was 90 years, okay, but she was diagnosed when she was 50 years old. Wow. So meaning that she lived for 40 years with a diabetes. And also sometimes, but now she has passed on due to age, my soul rest in peace. Yeah. But she used to call me. For instance, if the kids maybe the kids or grandchildren came to visit her, and maybe they offered her something, and it's out of her diet. She will call me at night and say, "Yo, these kids want to kill me. I've been with my diabetes for so long, and now they are offering me what. Please talk to these children." So she will call me with those complaints. And we always used to make a joke out of it. So a person can you can live a normal life
Yeah.
with diabetes, even with those that are type 1 that are injecting themselves. But most importantly as well, we need to understand and also they need a family support. So family support is very, very important. As Doctor also said, they go through psychological problems. So the family support is very, very important when somebody is diagnosed. It's not a death sentence. It's just a condition like any other conditions. People have to do some adjustments. But sometimes the adjustments really need commitment and also need consistency. So people can live longer. They can live normal with their conditions, just like high blood pressure or with your HIV status, whatever. As long as you also commit yourself and you adhere to your medication and what you need to eat and so on. The challenge that we mostly see also then with what it comes with the burden of being diagnosed with diabetes mellitus is a food intake. So I always tell my clients or our patients that they need to start actually do backyard gardening and also plant crops that does not require a lot of water, because like in Windhoek, water is expensive. And people are not really keen to do gardening, but I advise them to do crops that are not really water consuming. And then when I do the regions, because I also did an outreach in the regions, and you know our people like in the northern part of our region, they are seasonal crop farmers. Then they are only having their staple food, which is mahangu. So mahangu is a very good starch, but a very strong carbohydrate. So what we tell them to eat is to eat what they have, but in moderation. Because you cannot tell somebody you must go and buy this and that, and they cannot afford, but what they have in moderation. Just as the saying goes, everything above moderate, it will cause a problem. But if they eat small of what they have, they can still live with their condition. And I also have experienced that when we tell patients to go and eat what they have to eat, especially those that inject themselves, they test themselves, because everybody that is using insulin is ideally required to have a machine to test. Because if you don't know how much is your glucose levels, you are not going to be able to know whether should I inject or not. So I advise them to test whatever they want to eat, because if you want to know whether this mahangu is going to affect my sugar levels, the portion that you normally eat. So we did an experiment. They eat what they normally eat, the same portion. Then 2 hours later, they test their sugars, and it shoots up. From 7 to 15 or 17, then they know, okay, then I must reduce. So when we teach them, that's part of my education, to teach them so that they can be able to manage their diabetes mellitus well, because also diabetes mellitus is a self-management condition. Even if we give you the most expensive medication and we are not doing what we are telling you to do, at a point it becomes pointless. So, but if they know what they are supposed to do, then it's
Okay. It's a scary place to find yourself when you get diagnosed, from what I'm hearing, but it's doable with the least expensive methods to try and manage. And actually, I'm thinking about the 90-year-old granny, and I'm like 40 years with diabetes. So it's possible to live a long life. You can call us if you've got any questions for my experts here in the studio. Our number here is 061, being the area code, 400-397. That's the number, 400-397. You can also give us your questions and comments on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. We're also on YouTube. Our handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. Please do give us a call and let's hear what you have to add to the conversation. While we wait for you, I'd like to then ask Dr. Galioka, we have in recent years observed an increase in the diagnosis of diabetes in young people, especially if you're comparing to the past. We used to know this as an illness that would most likely, find you in your late 40s or 50s. It was more like some people joke, it was a granny's illness. But now, more and more youth, and we're not talking about babies or adolescents, we're talking about young people of working age that are being diagnosed with diabetes. From your experience, what are some of the fueling factors to this rising diabetes in young people?
Thank you. Most of these individuals have what we call the type 2 diabetes. And the commonest cause of type 2 diabetes is being overweight, being obese. And luckily in the Western countries, this accounts to 80% of individuals with type 2 diabetes. When we look at the current life we are living, the society we are in, we are moved from the villages, we are working in towns. Nowadays, most people are driving. If you want to go from shop A to shop B, you don't want to walk. You want to take your car, you want to take your taxi. And what does it mean? It means less exercise.
Yeah.
So if someone is already overweight or someone is obese, he's not burning any calories. So the lifestyle we are living is actually the main problem. So we are not exercising. Look at the foods we are eating. Most of the times if we are in town, you are most likely going to run into a fast food restaurant. And what do they serve? Chips, which are deep fried. And we know that is a very bad source of carbohydrates. We are getting, even if it's chicken, it's also deep fried. And it's deep fried together with the skin. And we know that even the skin of the chicken has very high levels of fats, cholesterol. And when it's taken in the body, it's converted into sugar and stored. So it's a lifestyle. We are seeing more alcohol consumption, more smoking with individuals. So it's a lifestyle which we are living which has fueled the epidemic in the young population. So we are not doing what we are actually supposed to do. Most of us, we work from office from 8 to 5. When we reach our houses, what do? The remote, put on the TV, sit there, you don't go out. If you are not watching the TV, you are on your smartphone, chatting and doing all that. The next thing is you eat supper and sleep. So all the calories you have taken, they are not going anywhere. So all these are the things which are fueling. And the moment, the other thing I can say is, the moment one of your parents has been diabetic, you have a 40% chance in your lifetime of becoming diabetic. If two of your parents are diabetic, this rises up. You have a 70% chance of being diabetic in your life. So you can see, if already I'm living a life where I end up being diabetic, and I have a child, I'm passing over all these problems to them.
Very true.
So these are some of the things we need to be able to have more spaces where people can go out, jog, people can have recreational facilities. And the kind of foods we are eating, we need to change our lifestyles in terms of food, because we know that food is one of the biggest problems and lack of exercise. So these are things which are doable, and we encourage people to change their lifestyle, because that's the only way we are going to reduce the epidemic. Actually, statistics show that in the sub-Saharan Africa, in the next 25 years, the incidence of diabetes is going to go up by about 134%. So by 2045, we'll most likely be seeing more than double the number of diabetic patients we are seeing now.
Wow. That is scary. But before I come back to that scary point, we've got Ellie from Hochveld on the line. Good afternoon, how are you?
Fine, thank you, ma'am.
Very well. You have a question for us this afternoon, or just a comment?
Yes, I have a question. Number one, I have two questions. First, I find you coming out from high blood pressure, something like that. You were talking about something like shouldn't use too much of salt, you shouldn't use smoking, that kind of thing, all right? If I'm not mistaken. Before you go to
Ellie, we're struggling a bit to hear you.
Okay, hold on. Can you hear?
Maybe you can give us a call back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Very timid.
And now?
Very, very timid. That's why I'm saying maybe you can give us a call back.
Okay.
Yes. We would really like to hear what your question is.
Okay.
Thank you. That's Ellie, and hopefully he can call us back as we are struggling to hear him there. And we continue the conversation here in the studio while we wait on him. I believe Ellie is calling us back now. Hello? Okay. Doctor, you spoke about statistics with regards to diabetes in Sub-Sahara. I now pose this question to the both of you. If you can kindly share the statistics that, that pertain to us as a country, as Namibia. What is the state of diabetes in our country currently? And are there any projections for Namibia?
Yeah, maybe I can just say some of the ones that I have. Yes, we currently, according to the Demographic Health Survey of 2013, we stand actually at 13% of people that have now been, those are now the ones that are diagnosed. And as I said, 54% of the population is those undiagnosed ones. And we said 20% of the population in Namibia is the one with pre-diabetes. So, meaning that from those 20%, if you don't do anything from now on, they will become diabetes.
Wow.
Okay. I just wanted also to share what Dr. Kyoko was also explaining about the family, the mother and the father, the chances. What we also observed is that when the family are going to do groceries, so when they will push 2 trolleys, all right? They will push a trolley for the, say for instance, the mother is now diabetic or the father has diabetes. So when they are going to do shopping, they have 2 trolleys. So when they are pushing, they will push now the trolley for the father or the mother who has diabetes, and then they push another trolley for the rest of the family. That is actually a bad habit, because we need to instill the culture of living healthy. Because now the one person is now going to adhere and to live a healthy lifestyle, while subjecting the other family members then to eat wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they will also end up then with obesity, with overweight, and then they get the condition. So it's better when they do shopping, they do 1 trolley, and whatever is eaten by one parent, everybody must stick to that. Everybody must learn to eat healthier, and everybody must eat what is being prepared at home just to avoid the next generation also getting diabetes.
20%. Yes, doctor, please.
Yes. I want to add that there is this perception that there is a diabetic food.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
We do not have food for diabetic patients. And I normally tell my patients and family members, when they are cooking their food should be cooked on the same pot.
Yeah.
The family should use the same pot, cook the same food. Maybe it's only when it comes to the time of serving, when the person who is diabetic has to be given a different portion. So the diabetic patient will need a small portion of the carbohydrates, will need a bigger portion of the vegetables, and maybe a few pieces of proteins. So families should not separate and cook differently. The pot must be one in the house. Whether there are 2 diabetics, 10 diabetics, no diabetic, the pot should be one. It's only the serving which should be different.
Wow. That's actually a very strong statement. We've got Aleta here on the line. And Aleta, good afternoon. How are you? Aleta, hello. Can you hear us? Technology is not being very friendly with us today. Hello, Aleta? Okay. Hopefully, Aleta can give us a call back. Technology here in the studio is not being our friend, and our technicians are working on that. Great apologies to everybody who's trying to come through. Hopefully, we'll be able to sort it out very soon. I would then like to ask the next question. What is end-stage diabetes? And is it possible for an individual to delay or avoid altogether having to go through end-stage diabetes?
Before maybe Doctor can answer that one, but before Doctor answered that, I would like to really talk about the complications of diabetes. At many times, people when they go to the hospital or to the clinics, much is said about the complications. People don't die because of diabetes. It's the complications that are causing death to our patients with diabetes. What the sugar does, especially with a high increase of sugar levels in your bloodstream, it affects your vessels. It affects the blood vessels. When it affects the blood vessels, for instance, you can get a stroke. It can form a clot in your brain, and you can also get a heart arrest, what we say a cardiac, where the heart can stop because of that clot in the heart. And it also causes the kidney failure, because as we said, the higher your sugar levels are, the higher the risk of actually damaging your blood vessels, and the blood is not flowing properly in the veins to the organs, and then because of the low blood flow that is going to your organs, you end up then with kidney failure as well. And then you can also get what we call nerve damage to your lower limbs, your legs and your feet. And you can also have, as Doctor also said earlier, that in the couple, it also causes problems in the marriage. Because they also have erectile dysfunction, which is actually also important. Because we remember the male reproductive organ, the penis, is actually a muscle, and it is also needs blood flow to that area for you to have an erection. And as I said, the blood vessels are damaged, and the blood flow is less to those parts. And also blindness can also be caused by those higher levels of sugar. So most of the times, really, we need to teach our clients or our patients, when they go to the clinics, they must actually know what they expect from the clinicians. They must know what is going to happen. So the complications really is something that is also dear to my heart, because I really put emphasis on the complications, because even if somebody go into the hospital, maybe was admitted, they didn't know what they diagnosed, but maybe it's a stroke. When they do the sugar levels are higher. Person comes, got a heart attack, when they do the sugar levels are higher. So that is actually most important. And then Dr. Kyoko maybe can just come in.
Before Doctor comes in, I believe we have Ellie back on the line. Okay, unfortunately, really, our sound here, we are working on it, and maybe Ellie can just send us your question or comment through our social media platform, because we would really love to hear from you. Remember, our handle on Facebook is Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. And if you are watching us through our YouTube platform, our handle there is MICT Namibia. So please do drop those questions and comments on our social media platforms. Doctor, yes, we come back to that particular question that we had for you, the end-stage diabetes.
End-stage diabetes.
Okay.
Because what you are calling end-stage is when someone has ended up with all the complications of diabetes. And for us to treat diabetes, our aim is to prevent or delay those complications. And that's where the need for someone knowing whether they are pre-diabetic or they are diabetic, they need to know it early so that treatment can be initiated. And we know that when the treatment is initiated early, then someone lives a near normal life. And you can live for as long as my colleagues talked about, 40 years, someone being diabetic, others have been living for 50 years. So the idea is, and this is where the campaign comes in, know your blood sugar, know whether you are diabetic, know whether you are pre-diabetic early, so that if you end up being diagnosed with diabetes early enough and measures are initiated, then all these complications she has talked about are delayed. And you live up to the age of 80 and you die from other causes, not necessarily anything related to diabetes. So we don't have that thing we say late stage diabetes.
I mean, we ask the questions of, statements to debunk any myths that are out there, to make sure that we give out the proper information, change perceptions where necessary, because I think that is one of the biggest things as well. Your mind plays a big role on how you take on this particular diagnosis, whether it's at pre-stages or whether it is beyond that. Your mind and what you tell yourself and what you decide to do with that really plays a big role on how your life will continue forward. On the 14th of November, annually, it is World Diabetes Day. And here in Namibia, we usually have about a week of commemoration, and we would like to then find out from Ms. Samuel what is installed for us as Namibians. What are the activities that MOHSS has in line for us for this commemoration?
Thank you very much. Actually, well excited actually about this campaign that is upcoming. Because we had COVID and we couldn't really do much going out and celebrate and so on. But this year we are really privileged because we are going to commemorate then this day on the 14th of November on Monday, and then we are going to have actually an official opening at Windhoek Central Hospital Chapel. It's going to be officiated by our Deputy Minister, Ms. Munyangwe, and then we are going to have then 3 days of free testing.
Wow.
Free testing of diabetes mellitus. As my colleague said, Dr. Kyoko, we know your numbers. It's very, very important. The earlier you know your numbers, the better to start early also with interventions. And then we have 6 sites where we are going to do the screening. As I said, it's free testing. We have Okuriangava Clinic, we have Mahwilili Clinic, and then we also have the Katutura Health Center. And then at Venil Park is also going to be a site just opposite Woolworth. It's going to be, our team is going to be there. And then Windhoek Central Hospital itself, and then Katutura Hospital as well, is where we are going to do the testing for free.
It's good to emphasize that.
For free,
Please.
yes.
This is our opportunity to really try and fight this and remove ourselves from this 20% stage and reverse it to 0%. I think it is possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
We just need to, put in the effort, I believe. And we would then also like to find out, are there any procedures that are involved from the individual when they come? Do they need to bring something along? Besides the payment, because now it's free, is there documentation that the person needs to bring along?
No, you don't need to bring any documentations because if you, we have a health card that we are going to give to the individuals that are going for the test. And also just to share that once we tested you and maybe your glucose levels are higher than the normal, we give you a health card, and then we'll tell you maybe to go tomorrow to the nearest health facility, or you can come back again tomorrow at the same center where you were tested, and then they can take it up from there, because you cannot diagnose on spot like that. Depends on the value, what we find.
Exactly.
But we are going to give a health card. They don't need to bring anything, they might just come.
Okay. We do have a question here. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade out of them. So we found another way to try and make sure we get to pose your questions to the panelists here in the studio. And one of those questions or comments is coming from Ms. Jenny Kahere, and Jenny is saying, afternoon, my nephew has abdominal pains occasionally. Every 5 minutes, he is using the toilets. His lips are forever dry. He is thirsty a lot. I don't know whether they ever tested his sugar levels. He is 11 years old. So these are observations that Jenny has made, and I think the question is basically, should she be alarmed? Is it a possible effect of maybe pre-diabetes or something in that line? Doctor?
It cannot be ignored. So I think because the symptoms are quite suggestive.
Yeah.
Of course, we know that most of the children, adolescents, they tend to end up with type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
Usually that one doesn't give you a lot of time to wait.
Okay.
Yes, because you do not have the insulin, as I said earlier. And the moment the insulin is not there, the sugar remains up and you don't have a lot of days. So it usually takes about a couple of days to a week, and that person lands in an hospital.
Wow.
So, of course, there may be other causes of what this child have. So I think the best thing is the child to go to hospital, and then a proper examination and investigation will be done. And then they should be able, the mother will be able to know exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jenny, I think the most important thing here is to not delay it. As doctor is emphasizing here, time is really that important factor that we should all consider when we have these issues. So please do not delay and get your nephew to the nearest clinic or hospital to get him tested. Now, as we are rounding off our program, maybe Ms. Samuel has something to add on to that.
Yeah, I just wanted quickly to add also on the signs that were now mentioned here. Just want to also to emphasize that we also see that a lot of children also, they actually have these abdominal pains. Most of the time they have really complaints of abdominal pains. So as said, we suggest that really she take the nephew to the doctor to just for him to be examined and so on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is that time of the afternoon where we are rounding off our session for this afternoon. Thank you very much for taking part in this session. We do heavily apologize for the technical problems that we were having here, and you are reminded that our platforms remain open, and we do forward these different comments and questions to the necessary officials and other OMAs, and revert back with the information that you need as Namibians. As we say, this is our platform for educating not only you, but also having you educate us about what's going on and what you're observing around yourselves in your community. But before I round it off or close it off, I have one question. Is diabetes preventable? I think that's the one question that I would want to have a definite answer to. Can we prevent it? Even if, for example, earlier on you alluded to hierarchical, is it not hierarchical? Hereditary, I would call it that, where you have it being taken from one parent to the next. Is there a way, or is it possible for an individual to completely prevent getting diabetes? Before you answer that question, let me take another attempt to a caller on our lines, anytime from Tsumeb. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Desiree. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm well, too. Thank you. I'm very happy to go through.
Yes, we're also happy to hear that you came through. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me greet the doctors there, the doctor and the nurse, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you for the information being given. Before I go to the question, the one who asked about the nephew's condition, I think I wanted to outline the symptoms of diabetes, and the way I wanted to pose the question upon those symptoms. Like one of them is feeling more thirsty than usual, urinating often, losing weight without trying, feeling tired and weak, feeling irritable or having other mood changes, having blurry vision, having slow healing stools. So these are the symptoms that I'm aware of. So does it mean that when I'm feeling thirsty than usual, urinating often, and even feeling tired and weak? So it means I should go for a examination. That's the first question. The second question, as we know that diabetes is a chronic health condition that affects how the body turns food into energy. And this leads to a critical health condition. Why does it lead to amputation of some of the body parts? Why? Like, for instance, one may have the loss or removal of a body part such as a finger, a toe, a hand, foot, arm, or leg. Why? And I've seen some of these people all of these who went for amputation because of diabetes. Can an elaboration please take place on that one? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your call anytime. And thank you for vindicating us because of that issue we had earlier on. Maybe one of you can just quickly answer or respond and sum that up for him.
Yeah, let me quickly respond on the first one. The first question, yeah, the signs and symptoms that are alluded.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we said, yes, the person can go for testing and for diagnosing, because somebody cannot just say, I'm thirsty. Yes, when you are thirsty than normal. Yes. It's not the normal thirst that you have. As I said earlier, you drink a lot of water, more than 2 liters, and you urinate frequently. So they go for the test, and then some tests and other investigation will be done to diagnose them the diabetes. It's very, very well. They must go for testing. I just want to talk about when you said you lose body parts. If you listen when I said earlier that the sugar levels, the higher the sugar increases in your bloodstream, it also affects your blood vessels. Yes, and it also causes the damage to your nerves as well. So when somebody end up losing a limb or a toe, especially we get it from the lower limbs to your toes, because there is what we call a peripheral arterial disease, when there is low blood flow with oxygen to your lower limbs because of the arteries and the veins they are damaged. So the blood is not flowing properly to those areas, and then what happens? That area will calcify, the color will change, and also eventually, like the toes, they become black, and what we call necrotic, and then they need to be amputated, because if there is no blood flow to that area, it will be painful, and the only option is for them to cut them off. And just to mention also, when somebody is diagnosed with diabetes, it's not a one-man show. It's not, if doctor is a physician, doctor alone cannot really take care of this patient. There are other doctors, there are other disciplines. It's a multidisciplinary team that is attending to our patients. So this patient needs to be seen, to be attended by ophthalmologist on a yearly basis to see the retina of the eye, whether the vessels are still fine, to pick up early blindness and other eye diseases. The person needs to be also seen by the vascular surgeon, who is actually now the person responsible to look at the lower limbs and to see whether those veins and the arteries are open and so on. And also a podiatrist, which we don't have currently in the country. And also then we need to have now Dr. Kyoko, the internal physician, that is also looking after this patient. So it's a multidisciplinary team, and also the dietitians come in. So it's not only a one-man show. When somebody is diagnosed, there's a lot of other disciplines that are also combining to come together and to attend to all these other needs of the patients.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time here, and we need to finish off. Thank you very much for tuning in and being part of this conversation. As we always say, it's an educational platform. Thank you very much for my panelists and my experts, as I call them, for dissecting diabetes for us and creating a better understanding of what it is all about and what we can do to assist those around us if we're not ones who are suffering from it, and also what we can do for ourselves to try and prevent us being diagnosed with diabetes. With that, from myself, Desire Kahia, and my production crew, it's bye-bye.